Now, most agents believe that they are selling insurance products, but you are not. You are actually selling trust. One of the stories that I remember from my selling days is I had a lady, I think it was actually my first sale, when I went to see her. We sat down, did my presentation exactly how the script was laid out, and just ran through the benefits. And I got about halfway through and I wasn't reading her reactions. I wasn't listening to her. And she stopped me and she says, "Sir, you're gonna have to learn how to accept yes as an answer." I wasn't watching my cues. I wasn't paying attention to what she really needed. So it's important that as insurance agents, you're paying attention to the trust and all the things that come along with it. So in this episode, we are going to be talking about the psychology of sales and what you need to be doing to close more deals more efficiently and to get them to say yes with compassion. So here we go. Today, I am doing this podcast from the beautiful boardwalk of Cranes Roost Park in Altamont Springs, Florida. A little bit of a noisy episode, learning how to use mics and being out in the wild is fun. Right here on the other side is I-4, so you're gonna get cars and runners and people and all that fun stuff in the background, but that's life, and we're gonna let this thing roll. One of the points I wanna make first is the difference between selling off of a script or out of a habit versus selling off of education. And today I had a conversation with an agent that's been in the business for a while, started with a different FMO, Medicare Advantage plans primarily, and he wants to start selling supplements. And he had asked me like, okay, well, who should I be selling supplements to? And I said, well, you got to start at the start, man. Have you had those talks as far as the path is concerned? And he didn't really understand what I was saying. And the point was that if you're going to sell, and let's just use Medicare supplements versus Medicare Advantage plans as an example, those are the two roads you can go down besides the third road, which is nothing, and then just staying on original Medicare. Medicare supplements, in my opinion, are for people that are really, really sick and need to see a lot of doctors that may or may not be in network. That flexibility is important to those folks. Also for those people that travel quite a bit and don't know where they're gonna be tomorrow, or they spend half the year here, half the year there, those types of scenarios, I think a supplement is great for those folks. Or somebody that has the money and wants the luxury of being able to go wherever they want, whenever they want. So I think those are examples of who a supplement would be good for. Now, that's not your job, is to decide whether the person should grab a supplement or grab a Medicare Advantage plan. Your job as an agent is to guide them and let them know, hey, this is the path. This is path one. Here's the pros and cons of having a Medicare supplement. Obviously, the cons are the cost. You're gonna have to pay a premium, still gonna have to pay Medicare Part B, and you're gonna have to pick up a prescription drug plan in that scenario. But the pros are flexibility and pretty much being able to go wherever you want, whenever you want. And then Medicare Advantage plan is the other option. This is for folks that are focused on cost containment, making sure that their costs are there. But the true value of Medicare Advantage is managed care. And you got to be able to explain that. What happens if you go to the hospital? Is the hospital going to call your primary care doctor and let them know that you're there? Not if you're on a supplement. They don't care. They got paid. So if a person is concerned about coordination of care, then Medicare Advantage plan should be that choice for them. There's all sorts of bells and whistles, and I think a lot of agents make mistakes going first after the bells and whistles. Well, I can save you $1 here and $1 there, and I can get you extra dental here and extra dental there. Sure, that might last you for a little bit, but the next guy right behind you is gonna say, well, I can beat that. So are you selling off of, benefits? Or are you selling off of education and guidance? In that scenario, your client is the hero of the story. So the hero of the story should have a guide, and you're that guide to say, hey, look, if you go down this path, this is what you can expect. If you go down this path, this is what you should expect. And know the rules of the road. When can they change? Can they make a decision later down the road to alter that change? Be that guide. You can't do that off of a script. You definitely can do it off of a guidance sheet. At our agency, we've got some resources that will help guide that flow chart of having that conversation with a person. If you skip that step, what ends up happening is that person will have buyer's remorse if they run into a scenario where they can't manage their own healthcare. Did you start at the start? Because if you skip all the way to the end because they said, hey, my neighbor is getting, they go to their doctor and they only pay $10 to see their doctor, you're solving somebody else's situation without having a true conversation about what that person really, truly needs. And that's what we're going to talk about next. All right. If you've never heard of a needs analysis, please pay attention to this now. I thought this was sales basics. I learned this a long time ago, but essentially there is an acronym called NEADS, N-E-A-D-S, NEADS. And what it stands for is now, enjoy, adjust, decision, and solution. So let's start at the N. In the needs analysis, when you're talking to a customer, the very first part of the sales presentation should be, what do you have now? What is your current coverage? Where are you at? Are you still working? Did you just retire? Are you on a spouse's plan? Do you already have a Medicare plan? What does that look like now? You've got to understand what they have now before you can offer them anything. First of all, so you don't offer them the same thing. Or secondly, you offer them a product that just absolutely doesn't even match anything that they currently have. That's important because of eligibility. So now, what do they have now? Next up, you have enjoy. The E. What do they enjoy about their current plan? This is where they're going to tell you why they're on that plan. You want to be able to make sure that you have benefits that either meet or exceed that specific need. If they're like, hey, I have a gym membership, I love going to the gym, I go there every day, or this plan doesn't require me to have any referrals, awesome. Listen to that, write it down, pay attention, because they're probably not going to want to join a plan that doesn't have a gym membership. They just told you what they like. This also helps with the process of elimination. If they say, hey, I have a plan that gives me back money, then that's going to slim down a bunch of different options for you and allow you to shop quicker when it comes to pricing. The A in needs assessment is adjust. What is it that they want to adjust about their plan? These are their pain points. Again, probably the most important part of the entire conversation is knowing what is it that's really teeing them off. It could be their doctor is no longer accepting that plan, or the cost of my drugs is too much, or I can't travel because my daughter lives in XYZ and there's no doctors on that plan in that area. So what is it exactly, that screwdriver in their side? That's what you're there to solve, okay? And I also want to just point out that if you're in someone's home, if you're on the phone with them and you have a decent amount of their attention, they've invited you over, they agreed to an appointment, they called you, whatever that looks like, there is a pain point there, okay? It's your job to discover it. What is the pain point? Why are you there? Why are they entertaining you? And unfortunately, people don't like being sold anything, so they don't make it easy for you to discover what that pain point is. So you got to do some digging. And if they tell you, no, I love everything about my plan, that's probably not the whole picture, because you wouldn't be there right now. If they were 100% happy with their plan, they probably wouldn't have invited you in their home. So there is a pain point there. You've got to dig at it, and you've got to remember it, because that's how you're going to make a sale. You're going to solve their problem. You're going to educate them on what their options are, but you're going to solve their problems. What is it that's really hurting them right now? You have to listen, and you have to write it down. All right, we're to the D in needs assessment or needs analysis. What does D stand for? D stands for decision maker. There have been times where I was so in the groove that I forgot to ask them, are they the final decision maker? And then I got all the way to the end and they said, well, actually, my daughter has power of attorney. You got to do a whole nother presentation all over again to a new set of people. So one of the things that I used to do as a salesperson is when I locked in the appointment, I would ask them, is there anyone else that needs to be at this appointment? Daughter, power of attorney, wife, husband, partner, whatever that is there anyone else that needs to be at this appointment to help you make a decision? If they answered no to that, you have shortcutted your way to closing that deal, okay? Because at the end, if they say, well, I need to talk to my husband about this or my wife about this, you say, but you told me that there was no one else that needed to help you with this decision. What changed, right? So it kind of takes that excuse away from them saying, oh, I got to talk to somebody about this, all right? If they really do have somebody that helps them with these decisions, make sure, absolute, that they are on the call every time with you when you're talking to that member or client. If they are a power of attorney, by law, you should be talking to them and not the client themselves, because anything you do could be construed as null and void, and you can get yourself into a bit of trouble. So just make sure you're asking that question. Are you the decision maker? Are you the final decision maker in this? And you could use this for anything, but essentially it takes away the excuse that oh wait, I gotta think about it. I gotta talk to my person about this, because you can rebuke that and say, well, you actually told me that you made your own decisions. So they don't get to use that one. So it makes it a little bit harder for them to wiggle out of it if they need to. Again, not forcing them in a plan, but just making sure that they know that you've kind of closed that door and that wall for them to make a decision today. So, but legally, please make sure that you're asking, are you the decision maker? Because if you are talking to the wrong person, you're just gonna essentially double your work, and that's no fun. All right, let's talk about S in needs analysis. The S is the solution. This is the home run. This is the guy rounding the bases. You have essentially listened to them. You have gone over and guided them and educated them on some solutions. You have asked them what they have now. You've learned what they really like about that plan. You asked them what their pain points were. You closed the door on them saying, hey, I got to talk to somebody. And now it's time for the solution part. With all your expertise, with all the information that you have, with everything you've done, you, Mr. or Mrs. Expert, what do you conclude? What's the best course of action for your client? And sometimes it's nothing, unfortunately, for you or the client. Sometimes they absolutely are on the best plan, and you really shouldn't be messing with it, right? So pay attention to that. But if the solution is hey, I think I've got a solution for you based on what we talked about, based on your answers, based on what you're looking for, based on your pain points, here's what I think is best. Now, I come from the school of, hey, you'd never want to ask somebody if they want something, yes or no, okay? Because 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say no, right? So you're not asking them, hey, do you want this plan? If you ask them, they're gonna tell you no, all right? What you should be saying is, here are 2 options that I found that I think would be amazing for you. Which one of these do you feel most comfortable with? And then they make the decision. They've closed themselves. They figured out that everything you've told them, based on truth, based on trust, based on you listening to them, regurgitating the solution and why you thought those two options are probably the best, they've closed themselves. They've said, actually, I like that one. Great. Now, I'm going to show you my close. It's very easy, very easy. Once they've told you, I think that one's going to be the best one for me. Fantastic. In order for this to start next month on the 1st, all I need is your driver's license. And if they have Medicare, I need to see your Medicare card. And if they pulled out those documents, you are good to go. That's it. It's called the assumptive close. It's my style. There's different styles out there, but it's a lot smoother, a lot easier to get that sale when they've closed themselves and you told them the next step. You said, all right, in order to get this going for the 1st, all I need is your ID and your Medicare card number, and that was it. This is proven in my world. I did it over, 800 times to success, probably even more than that with some failures over my time, but that worked the best. So again, in my opinion, I think you've got to step by step in the needs assessment and going through that analysis, listening to them, and then regurgitating to them why you thought those options were great. I want to talk about sales and sales emotions. One thing that I've learned over my career is that people buy off of emotions. Either it's pain, frustration, joy, excitement. I'm sure you can relate that when you were about to buy a new car, you were so excited about the car that the sale was easy. It was smooth. And that's essentially what people are looking for, is those smooth transactions. Being able to read emotions is super important. So here's a couple things that I've learned. I had a boss one time that told me that his whole sales technique was he wouldn't start the sales process until he got a smile or a laugh from the potential client. So unless that person was smiling or they had a good laugh together, he would not start down the path of sales. And I always remember that. I thought that that's a really great technique. It also matches emotion and it matches energy too. If you walk into a home and you feel a sense of emotion, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's frustration or anger or anxiety, pay attention to that. Pay attention to that because those are real feelings. These are real people. I remember it's an unfortunate thing that happened. I had an appointment with a gentleman one time and showed up to his house, and I think this was like on a Tuesday, and he's like, oh man, I totally forgot. I have another thing I'm at. Can we reschedule for Thursday? So rescheduled for Thursday, showed up to his house, and the house was gone. It had been in a fire, and he lost his family from it. So I eventually got a hold of him. People died, and at no other time did I ever bring up sales other than, hey, I'm really sorry for your loss, and if there's anything I can do to connect you with resources, please let me know. But I had to read that from a guy that lost his family in a fire. I wasn't gonna go chase this guy down and be obnoxious. It's terrible, right? Other examples, I've been in homes where people are giddy and laughy, and those are the fun ones, right? Those are the ones that you get excited to go see, and you match their energy. You got to match their energy. If your client is all uppity and giggly and having a great time, and you're, Debbie Downer, you're going to lose that sale. You're going to be like, what's wrong with this person? Why are they so sad? Why are they not there with me? So check your energy level, know the situation, what's going on in their life, ask questions, start a conversation. A good rule of thumb in sales is rapport. Build that rapport. Take the first 5 to 10 minutes to really kind of My goal was to try to get some type of connection going. I might spot a pet. Pets are easy, right? Oh, you have dogs. Great, I have dogs. What kind of dog is that? I mean, that's it. There's your connection right there. Maybe it's a picture on the wall. Maybe it's something they said. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's current events. But pay attention to that. You know, try to get a connection. Even if it's a small connection, I can tell you that I don't even remember ever closing a sale when I couldn't make a connection with that person at some level. Some connections are better than others. Some are deeper than others. But in actuality, people want to connect with you. So if you feel kind of lost, don't be afraid to share with them, you know, hey, the most amazing thing happened to me today. I wanted to share that with you. Or like, oh, I just had a great lunch. I ate at this place. Do you like that kind of food? Whatever it is, I mean, you just kind of have to put yourself out there sometimes if you're not getting anything back. But pay attention to that energy, because your client can kind of guide you on what kind of appointment it's going to be. You know, if they're sad, I'm not saying go in there and be sad, but definitely be aware of it and don't be obnoxious and go in there like, hey, what's wrong with you? Let's go. Because that ain't going to go over well. So consider energy as a serious part of your presentation. All right, so you've probably heard the adage that says, always be closing, ABC of sales. And there's a bit of truth to that. You always should be thinking about the end of the transaction, but I'm going to challenge you to think just a little bit differently. Instead of always be closing, always be adding value. What can you bring to the table for this particular individual, whether it's knowledge, whether it's a resource, whether it's a phone number or a doctor? Be a resource. Because if you're just a transaction, if you're treating it as just a transaction, they're going to treat your relationship as a transaction too. What you're trying to do here as an insurance agent is build a relationship. So in relationships, it's in and out, it's up and down, right? It's transactional, but it's long-term. It's like, hey, I was thinking about you, about our conversation, and I found this thing. Or maybe you talked about Thai food and you send them a link to a recipe, or I don't know. I mean, you got to go deeper than being transactional. People appreciate that, and then just that alone is going to true you up to be a top producer. People love to feel that they're connected to another human being. It's who we are. It's how we're made. I think sales agents that are top producers are naturally talented in making genuine connections very quickly. And that's something to study. I heard somebody recently tell me that they were a former awkward person or a recovering awkward person. I can say that too. I mean, I was never a person that was extroverted. You might argue because I'm here talking to a camera. But in my gray hair, beard days, I can tell you that it was a learning process, and I had to put myself out there and get out of my shell because I found great joy in helping people. So if you're approaching sales as not always be closing, but always be adding value. What value as a human being could you bring to this other human being? Maybe it's friendship. Maybe it's, you know, a resource. Maybe you found a website that could help them. Maybe it's remembering their birthday and actually calling them on their birthday. Man, I have so many agents that say, oh yeah, I call my clients on my birthday. I doubt it. Maybe a birthday card, sure. I doubt you call everybody on their birthday, especially if you have like, I don't know, 800 people in your book of business. That's a lot of time on the phone wishing people birthdays. But maybe there's a few that just really stick out to you, and that's fine. Think outside of the box on that, and let me know what you think. Thanks again for watching another episode of Closed. This has been really fun to deliver high-value content to you. If you have ideas, thoughts, concerns, or rude remarks, please let me know, because I would love to continue making videos for you. and bringing you the content you need to close more deals. So again, one ask, if you haven't already, please subscribe, go out to YouTube or Spotify and turn on those notifications. That way you get notified when I bring you more good stuff like this. Until then, I'm Justin Jacobs, this is Closed, and you have a nice day.